Hey everybody. So we are getting into chapter 6 today, starting with 6.1, write linear equations in slope-intercept form. All right, go ahead and get the title here, get slope-intercept form, remind yourself of that, and then we'll get going. Okay, so slope-intercept form, this is where we ended up in chapter 5. So chapter 6 is kind of taking it and moving it to the next step. So it's still a really important concept. Graphing, lines in algebra is always a big thing. Yeah, our focus is still this, and this is, your reminder, this is slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, where the number in front of x is your slope, and the number to the right of x is your y-intercept. Okay, this is going to have us start out with some pretty simple looking problems and then eventually get into some stuff that we haven't really done yet. Okay, so let's start out. Okay, go ahead and copy this example and we will try it together. Okay, so this is, pretty simple idea. It's saying write the equation of the line with a slope of -2 and a y-intercept of 5. All right, and yeah, all we're basically doing is plugging these numbers in, and I kind of color coordinated it. Okay, but yeah, when we go to write this out, our equation y equals mx plus b, well, our slope value is a -2, x, and then our b value is our y-intercept. They're saying is +5, and that's literally all of these problems are asking us to do. Just one thing to remember, sometimes we like slope to be a fraction, but on this, it's okay if you don't have it as a fraction since we're not actually asked to graph it, but just know normally we would want it to be a fraction so we could, do rise over run. Okay, so with that in mind, real quick, go ahead and get this problem. You can probably just, write, slope of 8, y-intercept of -7, and then get your answer. Okay, go ahead and try it out. All right, so yeah, these problems are hard to mess up. So we're getting y equals our slope, our m value is an 8, so 8x, and then our b value is a -7. By the way, you wouldn't want to do like plus -7. You'd want to just write, -7 or -7. Okay, so there is the equation of the line with the slope of 8 and a y-intercept of -7. Okay, so now let's try this in the context of given a graph. Go ahead and copy the graph, and we'll try. Okay, so write the equation in slope-intercept form. Asking us basically to do the same thing, though on this problem, they're not specifically giving us the slope and the y-intercept. We'll need to find it ourselves. Okay, so let's start with finding, we could find either, but since, when we go to write out slope-intercept form, which, we could just give ourselves a little reminder, the first thing we'll plug in is our slope. So let's find that first. All right, so when we find our slope, just a reminder, we're just going from one point to another. Normally, I suggest starting on the leftmost point and going to the right, but you could go either way. So it looks like this has a rise of 1, 2, 3. So if I want to start writing my equation, I get y equals a 3 over, and it looks like my run is +1, 2. Okay, so a rise of +3 and a run of +2. The x goes right next to it. Excuse me. The y-intercept is where the line crosses the y-axis, which looks like it's right here at -2, right? So there we have it. And there is the equation of our line. Okay, one thing I want to remind you of, say you went from this point to this point, okay, we would do a rise of 1, 2, 3 down, which would be a -3, and then to the left, 1, 2, which would then be a -2. We would get a double negative, which we would then turn into a positive. Okay, so that just goes to show you still get the same slope no matter which point you start at, though going left to right is normally what I recommend. Okay, so with that, go ahead and copy this new graph here and write out your equation in slope-intercept form. Try it out. Okay, so first things first, it looks like we have a slope. First, my rise, I'm going down 1, 2, 3 units. So if I want to start writing my equation, y equals, if I'm going down, that's in the negative direction. So a -3 for my rise, and then it looks like I'm going to the right 1 unit, so a +1 for my run. Okay, then just put the x next to it. All right, last thing is, what is the actual y-intercept? Where does this cross the y-axis? It looks like it's up here at +4, so +4. And there is the equation of this line. Okay, here's just another thing I want to remind you of. If we say we went from this point to this point, well, we would have a rise of positive 3 and a run of negative 1. We would get 3 over negative 1. Okay, and these two fractions are exactly the same. Okay, this negative technically just applies to the fraction. This is a negative 3 over 1, and so is this. All right, but when we go to, I guess, find our slope, we have to apply that negative to one of the numbers, either the top or the bottom. It doesn't matter which one you apply it to, is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so yeah, those are really simple, and this whole lesson is actually really simple. But let's get into something we haven't done before. Okay, go ahead and copy this example, and we'll try it. Okay, so this is saying find the value of m if the given line passes through the given point. Okay, so kind of interesting. They're asking us to find the slope of the line. Okay, and what they're giving us, if we take a look here, is our y-intercept. Okay, it's positive 1. And they're telling us that our line goes through this point, 3, negative 2. Okay, so just a little, you don't need to write this, but a quick visual of what is actually going on. If our y-intercept is positive 1, our line goes through there, right? This point, 3, negative 2 would be somewhere right there. Okay, so this is our line. The question is what would the slope be? Okay, what's the rise over run? Okay, well, here's the good news. This point represents our x and a y value that works in this line. All we need to do is plug in these numbers for x and y, solve for m, and we have the slope. Okay, so let's go ahead and try it out. So, you guys remember this ordered pair. 3 is my x value, negative 2 is my y value. So let's go ahead and plug it in. So I'm going to plug in a negative 2 for y. Slope, the m is what I'm going to find. So that's my variable. My x value is a 3, so I'm going to plug in a 3. I'm going to put in parentheses here because they're being multiplied. And then I have that positive 1. Okay, so again, all I'm doing here is plugging this number in, solving for whatever I'm looking for. On this one happens to be the slope. Okay, so first things first, before I can get rid of the 3, like any other problem, I need to deal with addition or subtraction first. So I'm going to subtract the 1 from both sides. Looks like I get a negative 3 equals m times 3. I guess we'll leave it that way, though. If we wanted, we could turn this into a 3m. Though let's keep it as m times 3. Okay, and yeah, it's just being multiplied, even though it looks a little different. So we'll get rid of it by dividing. Okay, and there's our answer. Looks like we're getting a negative 1 equals m. I'm going to go ahead and flip it around, and it looks like our slope is negative 1. Okay, and yeah, there it is. Find the value of m if the given line passes through the point, and we just figured out we found the slope of the line that has a y-intercept of positive 1 and goes through this point. Okay. And they're not asking, but you might get problems that after you get this, they want you to actually write the equation of the line. Let's go one more step, and let's actually write the equation of the line that goes through this point. Okay, and that would just be plugging in that m value. Okay, so my slope's a negative 1, so I got y equals negative 1x, and then plus 1. Okay, this is the actual answer, but this would be the equation of the line. Okay, cool. Let's try another one. Okay, go ahead, copy this, and we'll try it out. Okay, on this problem, notice it's asking almost the same thing. The only difference is this time, instead of finding the slope, we're finding b, the y-intercept of a line. So again, what is the y-intercept of the line that goes through this point? All right, well, to figure that out, we're going to plug this point into our equation, and we're going to solve for b. Okay, so let's go ahead and do it. My y value is a negative 4. Be careful. It'd be really tempting to plug in that negative 1 because it's the first thing you see. Okay, equals 2 times x, which is a negative 1, plus b. That's what I'm solving. Okay, so we got a negative 4 equals negative 2 plus b. Okay, and kind of even easier than the last problem, solving for b, we're going to add 2 to both sides. Looks like we're getting negative 2 equals b. I'm going to go ahead and flip it around and get b equals negative 2. Okay, and there it is. There is the y-intercept of the line that has a slope of 2 that goes through this point, negative 1, negative 4. All right, and let's go one more step. Even though they're not asking it, let's go ahead and just plug it in. We're just going to plug in this negative 2 for b and get the actual equation of the line. So y equals 2x and then minus 2. That's the equation of the line. Okay, so I'm going to have you guys try out a couple of these. Okay, same idea on these problems. This one, you're going to find the slope of the line that goes through 2 comma negative 5. On number 2, you're going to find the y-intercept of this line that goes through negative 4, 1. Okay, go ahead and try this out. Okay, so let's go ahead and plug it in. It looks like our y value is a negative 5. M is what we're solving for. X is a 2, and minus 4. All right, so let's see what happens. So I'm solving for M. First thing, let's get rid of this minus 4 by adding 4. And it looks like we're getting a negative 1 equals M times 2. Last thing, getting rid of 2. It's being multiplied, so we'll divide. Okay, and it looks like I'm getting a negative 1 over 2 equals M. I'm going to flip it around, but negative 1 over 2, it doesn't divide evenly. That's fine. So that's our slope, a negative 1/2. Okay, and on these problems, that's good enough. We don't need to write the equation. I just wanted you guys to see that on those other problems. Okay, let's try it on number 2 here. This one, we're solving for the y-intercept. So let's plug in our numbers. Our y value is 1 equals 1/2 times our x value, which is a negative 4, plus b. Okay. On this one, it works out nice. We can take a half of 4 really easily. We know half of 4 is 2. And a negative times a negative is a positive, right? So we're getting y equals 2. Sorry, 1 equals 2 plus b. Okay, last thing, subtracting 2 from both sides. Looks like we're going to get a negative 1 equals b. I'm going to flip it around. B equals negative 1. Okay, so yeah, kind of just a little bit more review on slope-intercept. We're going to be building upon this stuff and plugging numbers in and doing this. So hopefully you're getting more and more comfortable with this. And I will see you guys in class. Bye.